Earlier I talked about what the president said to the governors with Louisiana Governor Bobby Jindal. Governor Jindal, thanks for being here.
Brett, thank you for having me.
You're at the White House today. Here is how Time magazine describes this encounter at the White House. Jindal breaches White House protocol to take shots at Obama. And here's the quote. Louisiana Governor Bobby Jindal launched into a repeated assault on President Barack Obama's leadership in the shadow of the West Wing in defiance of established bipartisan protocol. Your response to that?
Well, look, it was a very respectful meeting. But let's not paper over. We have real substantive differences with this president. And the point I was making, I made it when I talked to the president respectfully, and I made it on the White House grounds, is that this president is waving the white flag of surrender. You know, if the best he can do is a minimum wage economy, that's not the best that America can do. His policies are resulting in a stagnating economy. You look at what's happening today in America. Lowest labor force participation rate in 36 years. We've got, when you look at, he talks about taking executive action, about using his pen and phone. I made some specific recommendations. If he's serious about growing the economy, why not approve the Keystone Pipeline? Why not produce more oil and gas on federal lands?
You think that's going to happen?
It should. There's no logical reason for him to oppose it other than ideological extremism. We're talking about tens of thousands of jobs, an ally in Canada. We're talking about becoming less reliant on the Middle East and the Venezuelans.
But he says a decision either way in a couple of months.
He said that to me when I asked him the question, but the reality is it's been 5 years. I mean, there's no reason for these studies to go on and on and on. The reality is that the only reason it's taken this long is he's playing to his political base. I can only think that it's politics. But there are many things. If he was serious about growing the economy, why not delay Obamacare? CBO itself has said that over 2 million fewer Americans working thanks to his health care law. So think about this, Brett. He's proposing policies that would actually destroy jobs. Minimum wage increase, 500,000 fewer jobs. He talks about using his pen. He talks about using the phone. He talks about bypassing Congress. I gave him 10. Today I did an op-ed and I listed some of these for him in the meeting. I gave him 10 specific ideas. If he's really creating private sector jobs, he can use his pen, use his phone, doesn't need Congress, doesn't need to borrow money from the Chinese. Today, if he did these things, could create millions of jobs, for good-paying jobs for the American people.
We heard from Connecticut Democratic Governor Dan Malloy in Wendell Goller's piece accusing you essentially of political grandstanding. He said that here comes a guy who didn't come to any of the meetings except this one today and has the nerve to pull that stuff on everyone 10 feet from the West Wing. He doesn't pay his dues to the organization. He doesn't come to the meetings of the organization. And then he wants to swing for the fences for obviously political reasons. I didn't mind pushing back, is what Malloy said today.
I'd say a couple. Well, one, we do pay our dues. But one of the things I want to say that we don't have kings in this country. I know this president thinks he can just interpret the Constitution, apply the laws, win and how he wants them. He thinks he can go around Congress. We don't have kings, and I think it's unfortunate if Democratic governors feel like they got to defend this president, whether he's right or wrong. Look, as Americans, we've got the right to speak up when we think he's wrong. I think it's wrong to surrender. I think it's wrong to raise up that white flag. I think this Obama economy is now a minimum wage economy. I think it's wrong to accept that. I've got an obligation to the people of Louisiana. I've got an obligation to speak up and say we can do better. And the middle class is hurting right now. Energy prices aren't going down. Health care prices aren't going down. This president can do something about it. If he's serious, why not? Why doesn't he get the Department of Justice out of the way from school choice? You know, I asked him that question. I asked him about vouchers and school choice and educational reform. He said, you know, look, he's not for that. This president's creating obstacles, standing in the way of the American people pursuing the American dream.
Now, the White House said today that the president is for a national economy where the minimum wage is $10.10 an hour. He said perhaps Governor Jindal prefers a Governor Jindal economy of $7.25 an hour. What about the issue of minimum wage and how that plays in your party?
Look, I prefer an economy where families don't have to make the minimum wage. They've got good-paying jobs. The CBO itself said the president's proposal will cost 500,000 Americans their jobs. We don't want a wage economy. Brett, look, you do the Keystone Pipeline, tens of thousands of construction jobs. Oil and gas, one study says hundreds of thousands of new jobs if the activity on federal lands was growing the way it is on private lands. You look at the obstacles this president's creating to real robust private sector job growth. If he would park those EPA regulations, the EPA has been so aggressive on carbon, on coal-fired plants, we could bring good-paying manufacturing jobs back into this country. Obamacare, more than 2 million fewer Americans in the workforce. How is that good for the economy?
So when you hear Kathleen Sebelius say that no jobs have been or are being lost from Obamacare, you say what?
I say that's like hearing the president say your premiums are going down $2,500. That's like hearing the president say if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. That's like hearing the president say if you like your health insurance plan, you can keep your health insurance plan. 5 million Americans got cancellation notices. I think people are beginning to realize that the Obamacare legislation, the ACA, is not what they told us it was going to be.
When do you decide whether you're running in 2016 or not?
We've got 36 governor races in 14. We've got to be focused on that, on the House and the Senate. I'm focused on winning the war of ideas. We shouldn't be thinking about 16 until we get past the 14 elections. It's kind of like in football. You don't worry about getting to the next year's Super Bowl until you win your regular season games. You start with your preseason and one game at a time. Let's go win the elections in 14. We got some great governors out there. Rick Scott in Florida, Nikki Haley in South Carolina, great governors in Ohio, Michigan, Tennessee. We've got a bunch of great governors, bold reforms. That's why they've taken on public pension reforms, education reforms, tax cuts, spending cuts. That's why their economies are doing so well.
So mid-November you make the decision.
What I can tell you is we're absolutely focused on the elections this year first.
Governor Jindal, thanks so much.
Brett, thank you for having me.